Good morning, adventurers. My name is Ben, and welcome to a morning show where I sit around, drink some tea, and talk about D&D. So first up for TeaND today, we have the Help It's Again mug, all black. It feels like an appropriate one to go out on for this season. And inside of it, again, feels appropriate to end on a high note here. I have what is actually genuinely the last cup. I don't have the tin. It's not in here. The last cup of my Hardy & Sons green tea. It felt right. It feels like the right time. I think, you know, it seems appropriate. So we're going with that. And also how appropriate to go out on an episode that my patrons suggested and picked. So thank you guys for that. If you're interested in becoming a patron of mine, check out the link in the description of this episode. But before we get into that, let me remind you once again that good friends of the show over at King Leo D&D have offered a discount code to us here. I will be featuring their mug whenever it does come in. You can use the code TeaND, that's capital T-E-A, capital N, capital D, at checkout, specifically with regard to their mug, when you are buying it from their store, obviously, which is linked in the description of this episode, along with the code, in order to get a $6.99 discount off of that mug. That's almost half off, which is supremely generous, and I am very much appreciative that they decided to go ahead and do that. So thank you guys so much, and go check them out. Send them a little bit of love from all of us. Now, getting into what we're actually talking about today, we are talking about characters that break the mold. Specifically, we're talking about players that break the mold with their characters. And I've talked a little bit about this, about subverting expectations with characters and things like that. But we are talking specifically about players that have created characters that go against the grain that is typical of their of the character archetype, stereotype that goes with their chosen class and subclass in this. I guess not subclass so much. It is the general vibe of the class that they're going against. There are actually a lot of these. There are many of them. So I think I'm actually going to limit it to two of the biggest shows, so that it is the most widely, accessible to everybody, so everybody kind of is on the same page, can understand what's going on here. So we're going to be talking about Critical Role. We're going to be talking about Dimension 20, and we are specifically going to be talking about, I guess, campaigns 1 and 2 of Critical Role, as well as Fantasy High Seasons 1 and 2 of Dimension 20. Dabbling a touch into Unsleeping City, but most specifically, we are going to be talking about Fantasy High. There will be spoilers, I guess, like character-based spoilers to a degree in these. I'm going to do my best not to talk about story things, because I would prefer to not do that, so that this remains an episode that people can just kind of watch, as opposed to, or consume, I guess, as opposed to being something that you have to have caught up on, hundreds of hours of content in order to be able to actually enjoy. So I'm going to do my best, and I will do my best to flag them as they're coming up, because usually I can tell when something is about to come out of my mouth that is important for me to not just say. So, we're going to talk about, I'm going to sort of like list out all these characters, and I'm going to sort of go through the ways that they break the mold specifically. We're going to start off with one of what might be the most obvious ones in Laura Bailey playing Jester. This is one that might not seem crazy obvious at first, but the more you watch it, it becomes more and more obvious. The Cleric, traditionally, is sort of like a sage, pacifist, healer kind of person. Laura Bailey plays a trickster domain cleric named Jester in Campaign 2 of Critical Role. She is adorable. She is precious. She is Laura Bailey and will make you want to cry in a second. But she goes against the grain of what a cleric is traditionally seen to be. She is not excessively religious. She doesn't sit down and pray all the time. She doesn't, she isn't like overflowing with long wisdom as many other clerics are. She's not that quote-unquote sage character like somebody like a Caduceus Clay from Campaign 2 Critical Role, or Kingston Brown from Unsleeping City would necessarily be. In the same vein as Laura Bailey playing Jester, we have the wonderful, the just disaster child of Allie Beardsley playing Kristen Appleby's. Same general vibe in that Allie, while they are playing Kristen Appleby's, is not like super into their god necessarily. Kristen is not somebody who, worships it outwardly all the time, and she will waffle on her belief a lot because she's a teenager. Allie is playing Kristen as a teenager because they're in high school. So he's kind of all over the place with faith and not really committed to anything because, again, like 15 years old, so it's not really something you want to commit to, blah, blah, blah. And then you've got that paired with someone like Laura Bailey playing Jester, who is just a disaster, who's playing specifically a Trickster Domain Cleric. I think I mentioned that already, which is built-in disaster already. Those two take the mold of Cleric that you think of, that like put together sage wisdom based kind of person, and just like shred it to pieces and sprinkle it around on top of a funfetti cake of mayhem. And that's really that's the punctuation at the end of that sentence. Moving forward, we have again campaign 2 critical role. Wow, there we go. Took me a second to get there. And this one we have Unsleeping City. This is the little bit of dabble in here. We have Marisha Ray playing Beauregard Lionette, and we have Emily Axford playing Miss Sophie Bikes, Sofia Bicicleta. These two are monks. You wouldn't know that by anything that they do other than attack, but they are monks through and through. Monks, again, sort of like a general Zen, sort of like connected to the world, wisdom-based thing. Sophia is a disaster of an individual. Just straight up, flat out, a total mess of a person. You love to see it. Beauregard, very similar, except Beau is the kind of kid that gets sent to the principal's office because she decided to throw something at somebody else for being too nerdy or loud or something like that. It is a wonderful, wonderful take on the monk class that you just don't get to see all that much. Both of them play their characters phenomenally well. They are so in touch with their characters, and they understand exactly what it takes to play this character that is supposed to be this wise character based in just being a chaos gremlin. They are different in the way that they approach being absolute mayhem for their DMs from like Laura and Allie, in that Laura and Allie are more just like intense, tricky chaos kind of things, whereas Marisha and Emily fill a very similar role to each other at their respective tables, in that they are the note taker, they are the like planner, they have the super analytical mind going, but they play these characters in such a way that makes them just like brutally, I don't want to say annoying for their DM, because it's clear that they are not being annoyances, but they are like, they're the one that kind of keeps poking at the situation to get something to happen. They are prodding and prodding and prodding, trying to make a situation occur, as opposed to a traditional monk where you are sitting there like relaxed, in tune with the world around you, ready to go, ready to look forward and do things. These two are just like all in, like head first, hit the big red button kind of people in these roles, and it's amazing. To be clear, I love Emily and Marisha, and annoying was not used to describe them in any capacity there, because I know that there are a lot of people on the internet that hate them for no good reason, because honestly, because they are women at D&D table. That they're fantastic players, they really are, and anyone would be lucky to have them at their table. Jumping forward from them, we stay in Critical Role Campaign 2, and we go back to Fantasy High with Ashley playing Yasha and Zach playing Gorgug. Both of these are barbarians, and they are both, while intimidating in stature and Yasha intimidating in some of her demeanor, they are both just softies, and you find that out very, very early on for both of them. I believe it's the first episode of Fantasy High that Gorgug just doesn't want to do. He doesn't want a barbarian. He doesn't want to be doing that. It's just not great. And with Ashley, spoilers, skip forward, we'll say 15 seconds from right about now. Ashley, particularly when she's in that pit fight with the other guy, or with the other woman, where she just slaps her the whole time, chills, no rage the whole time. Oh my god, it was so beautiful. You love to absolutely see it. But that is a really good example of playing a barbarian in such a way that is not necessarily the traditional way. They are both these just like soft, sensitive characters, which is kind of in contrast, with Ashley at least, to Grog, Travis's character from Campaign 1 of Critical Role. While Grog was a softie for a lot of things, he did ultimately just want to get down and just rip faces in half, essentially. And we love to see that. Travis was so good as Grog, but Ashley took it in a totally different direction, which was really fun and honestly a very good idea, because Grog was one of people's favorites from Campaign 1, and Ashley didn't want to essentially come in and step on that to become the new barbarian. She took it in a different direction and did such a good job. I adore Yasha, and same goes with Gorgug. Zach just comes in, sits down, and he plays kind of Zach. Honestly, he sits down, he's like, yeah, I'm here, I'm good to go. I don't know Zach personally, obviously, but first off, I would love to, but it's just, that's the kind of vibe I get from him as a person. In all of his stuff, it's the underlying sort of character that he plays in all of these shows as well, and he seems like that kind of guy just in general. And so bringing that into Gorgug as a barbarian is a really awesome kind of sense that you get. I mentioned that this is obviously not well known, it has not been published at this point. I mentioned that I played a barbarian recently as a guest on a show, and I took him in, and he was this just like nerdy little dude. I loved him to death, but he came out quite literally swinging, and surprised the people that were at the table with me for it. They loved him. It was a lot of fun. So it's pretty easy to be able to like slide off of these tropes, even though they are sort of the easy fallback for a lot of these. Next up, moving forward, again, we go to Sam playing Not in Campaign 2. I believe that Sam actually even said this in the wrap-up of Campaign 2, that he wanted to have a character that was not going to be the suave rogue that everybody saw with Vax in Campaign 1. And so Sam wholly leaned into that and became just the terrified little goblin that we all came to know and love in Not, and genuinely adored that character, because there was so much heart put into her too, especially as you learn more and more about her storyline. But she was just this scared little thing instead of the like super sneaky, super like cool, dark, mysterious rogue. From the get-go, it was just just from the start, which is amazing. And I had so much fun getting to watch that character grow and develop, because it was not following that initial trope that sort of comes with the territory of being an early D&D character. I also want to highlight real quick Paladins, just in general. Paladins are so often portrayed as the like do-gooder police officer type who, will uphold the law against everything else. And spoilers for campaigns 1 and 2 of Critical Role coming up here for probably the next 30 seconds or so, starting now. Travis and Liam both multi-class into Paladin as they go through, and they most definitely subvert the expectations associated with a Paladin. Neither of them are like tenets of good and peace and law and order and that kind of thing. They are both very much continuing to play the characters that they were playing. Liam comes out as a dark vengeance paladin, and Ford comes out as like this, I'm going to do my own thing kind of paladin. And it is beautiful to get to watch. And that is just genuinely such a cool way to be able to play a paladin. But those are my big subversion of expectations for characters. If you guys want to know more of them from like smaller shows and things like that, please let me know. Because I do have a relatively extensive list here of people that just knock it out of the park every single time, trying to subvert those expectations. If you go and you watch Campaign 1 of Critical Role, you will see that so many of those characters follow sort of like the archetype of traditional fantasy epic characters. Whereas if you go and watch Campaign 2 of Critical Role, you will see that so many of their characters fight against those norms in so many different ways because they were trying to do something new. And those original characters were so many of their first characters ever, which is really, really awesome. And then with Fantasy High, I guess Dimension 20 in general, you see them become progressively more unhinged as you watch through the different seasons of of Dimension 20. And you get to see so many more of these different character types because their seasons are so much shorter. I will also give just a shout out to Fabian Seacaster and Lou Wilson as being not necessarily a subversion of expectation of the character and breaking that archetype, but putting a fun spin on it, because he plays just the most like confident, out there, suave kind of fighter you will ever see in your entire life. And he's not good at so much of what he does, and it's hilarious and amazing. And I adore it. I love it so much. Yeah. I think that's what I'm gonna end that one on that one, I think. So going on to the shows that we have today and through the weekend, and I would list out the rest of them for the month, but I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to do it today and the weekend. Starting off with today, we have, in no particular order, Mayhem D&D, Off the Rails, Oxventure, Just Roll With It, The Strings of Fate, Rolling with Difficulty, World of Low, The Crown TM, and Coming Together Naturally. Then tomorrow, on Saturday, we have Dice Funk and Strange Hungers, and on Sunday, we have Super Idols, Roll for Your Life, Grinning Griffin, Dungeon Drunks, Library of Chaos, Library of Nightmares, the Chaos Brigade, Rise of the Forsaken, Chromatic Dice, The Stradcast, High Rollers, and Tabletop Notch. Please, please, please go check them out. Let them know that I am the one that sent you, because again, somebody will say something to me about it someday, and I'm going to think that it's hysterical. Yeah, that's it. That's the end of the show for this whole season here. This is the finale for season 2. I said yesterday that I wish I had something special to do, but we're probably going out the way we came in, just flying by the seat of our pants a little bit. That's exactly what we're doing here. So I just want to take a second to say thank you all so very much for supporting me on this weird little adventure that I'm going on here. Season 2, I think, has been a resounding success. In no small part to all of you guys. I've been, able to consistently make these, put them up every single day of the week, and I've had so much fun being able to do that for everyone here. I am going to be taking the month of May off, and then we're going to come back for the summer season, which is going to be June, July, and August. So please mark your calendars, get ready, check that out when it comes back, and we're going to be back for season 3 in a month here. So thank you guys so very much for making me part of your morning routine. I really, genuinely, truly do appreciate it. And thank you so much in particular to my patrons. You guys are the ones that make this show possible. Quite literally, this show here. Patrons, nothing is going to change with my Patreon, I don't think, except for the fact that I will probably have just like one long running suggestion box or something like that, so that we can just keep suggestions rolling in as we go. Yeah, that's all I got for you. So, everybody, don't forget, drink tea, play D&D, and I'll see you guys next month. Keep on rolling.